After a long fight, we crawled up from the dawn and renewed the revolution in Russia. It was a difficult battle, but with the help of our Ukrainian allies we did it. Still, our nation is not secured. On all sides there are enemies against our socialist values seeking to destroy us. We must prepare for our inevitable conflict and assure ourselves that we have the high ground. So, reforming our backwards military is our highest priority since we already have dealt with our economy and politics. During our war with the populists, many of their generals and soldiers joined our side, but they cannot be trusted. The sad reality is that they have to be purged and replaced with new socialist soldiers. We can learn a lot from our war with the populists, but also from the world war Germany just won. We will learn from this and start to centralize our command to avoid any chaos. And to help with this, we will establish the main military council. But we can't win any war without good equipment and good divisions. Fortunately, we have already come a long way with this. We have reorganized our production lines and begun producing several new types of equipment like anti-air and artillery. But more importantly, we have changed our Cossack cavalry divisions into an organized infantry fighting force. And we are planning to massively expand our amount of divisions to hopefully 2 full army groups of 120 divisions. The role of the Cossacks as fast and aggressive units will instead be taken by our new and maybe never seen in the world divisions. The Russian populists had already begun producing mechanized infantry, but we have built on their idea and added Katyusha rocket launchers. While our army is quickly expanding, it will take some time for our air force to reach the strength of the established ones in the west. One last thing, we will create the People's Logistics Corps to take care of the most important job in the army. If you remember, the populists suffered greatly without supply. While there is still a lot of training and expansion left to do, our army is at least way stronger than before, and with our economy booming and the aftermath of the Russian conflict dealt with, it's time to look towards the future. We must renew the revolution of the world. The Fourth Internationale will rise from the ashes of the Third. We will begin to spread the revolution to the old Ottoman allies in the Caucasus. No one will help them. The Germans are struggling against the Japanese Empire and the Ottomans are too scared to fight a two-front war. We threatened them with force, giving them the chance to surrender, but they both resisted. For the good of their people, we sadly have to march in and depose their corrupt leaders. We decided to start our offensive against Azerbaijan since they weren't at all ready for our intervention. With half the front completely open, we could encircle their only garrisons and continue towards Baku. They tried desperately to defend their territory, but soon we had encircled the city and entered it. It will take some time until we can use the city to supply our troops, so while we wait, we will shift our focus towards Georgia. We had already captured Sochi and captured a few villages in the east, but now we decided to attack from everywhere. Despite their defendable terrain, we shelled them to the ground and could easily advance. In the east they didn't have many divisions, so we simply marched into Tbilisi. Every single day that went by they lost a town or an important area. Soon they decided to surrender and accept our terms. To establish a socialist puppet regime with the goal of uniting Transcaucasia. While we had fought them, the Azeris had assembled a defensive force and no more open tiles could be found. But with their capital and more than half of their military industry captured, this won't be a problem. With the Ukrainians nicely holding our flanks, we launched an offensive towards the Iranian city of Trabzi. Once we had captured it, the Azeri government still didn't surrender, so we decided to crush their northern front too. 2 offensives, one from Georgia and the other from Baku, encircled 3 of their divisions and continued towards their last populated areas. After we captured several of their cities, they surrendered too. We gave all their lands to our Transcaucasian puppet except Derbent, which we will integrate, and northern Iran. We will establish a government in exile in Iran to justify our future invasion of the Ottomans. Then we received welcome news from the Transcaucasian government that they rather integrate themselves into us than exist as a separate entity. Their wish will be granted and our two nations united. Now the time has come to deal with the Ottoman Empire. While we didn't use our mechanized Katyushas in the Caucasus, we will use them now. The plan is that 1/3 of our allocated infantry divisions secure Iran and Iraq, while the rest, together with the motorized, rush towards Ankara and Constantinople. Despite our massive build-up on the border, almost no additional Ottoman units showed up. So we declared war on them and launched our battle plans. Our mechanized performed so much better than we had hoped to. They outran any Ottoman counterattacks, but also our own infantry, which had problems catching up. Still, they have excellent firepower and could survive without them. So soon, to the shock of the world, we had entered Ankara. But we didn't stop there and continued towards the Bosphorus. To cross to the other side, we will have to wait for reinforcements, but on our other fronts we can continue. In Iran, we had liberated Tehran and were close to do the same with Baghdad. However, because we had forgotten to put troops in Central Asia, Afghanistan decided to help them out and join the Istanbul Pact. This matters little, we are already outside of Constantinople, and most other Ottoman cities have or will soon be captured. So we launched our offensive to capture their capital. Our motorized had huge trouble to cross the strait, so we called in several infantry divisions to help. While they did slowly turn the battle around, it still didn't seem to be enough. Though we were wrong, the Sultan and his cabinet had fled the country, and with Turkish socialists arriving on the other side of the city, their garrison surrendered. The rest of the Ottoman army followed, not seeing any ways to win this war. In the peace deal, we reintegrated Armenia and finally established the Socialist Republic of Iran. In Anatolia, we allowed the formation of the Turkish Commune under the supervision of us, of course. The rest was divided up by the Cairo Axis and Iraq was established. But the war isn't done. Afghanistan is still occupying Central Asia. They had already begun invading Iran, but our mechanized were quick to arrive and encircle them, pushing them back to Afghanistan. With almost no Afghani divisions in sight, we decided to continue into their country. We managed to capture Herat, but the deeper we drove into their territory, the more resistance we met and the worse supply we got. So we decided to stop and wait for infrastructure and railways to be built up both in Afghanistan and in Iran. After only a few weeks, our brilliant workers had fixed the supply problems and we could continue. With our infantry also having catched up, we easily broke through all their defenses. In the north of the country, we outflanked them, rushing towards Kabul. But since the city garrison was too strong, we instead decided to continue to Jalalabad and cut off all Afghani forces in Central Asia from Kabul. We never had the chance to destroy them, since once our reinforcements arrived, we entered Kabul and their government and whole military surrendered. It is too costly to have our military in place to secure control. Instead, we will grant them a certain autonomy. Now our southern borders are safe. The Cairo Axis are at war with the Germans and will never attack us too. So, with it safe, we can turn to the east. The Japanese Empire has fallen apart. They have been kicked back to their home islands by the Qing and Germans. This is the perfect time to demand Sakhalin. But to reach Japan, we first have to retake eastern Siberia, controlled by the Provisional Republic of Siberia and their puppet Yakutia. So let us march east. As we began the march, everything went perfect, but then once we arrived to Bodaibo, we realized we couldn't cross the river and that the only way was to go into Buryatia, a Qing puppet state. A war against the Qing would cost way too much, probably turning into a two-front war as the Germans would attack us too. The only way is to negotiate with them. After more than a month of back and forth, we came up with an agreement. We will get back our Russian territories except Transamur in return for us denouncing the KMT and recognizing the Qing dynasty as the one true China. Still, it is worth it. The road to the rest of Siberia is open. We met almost no resistance, and while the march still took some time, Nikolaevsk still fell and the provisional government along with Yakutia surrendered. The sad reality is that because of our agreement with the Qing, we can't continue to Vladivostok and Sakhalin. Our expansions in the east is almost over. The only thing left is the remnants of the Japanese Kamchatka colony which Germany occupies. But for us to invade that, we have to be prepared for a war in the west. A year later, at the new year of 1945, we were finished with our preparations. All along the main front we have stationed around 7 divisions per tile with mechanized on a few places. In Finland we are ready to as quick as possible enter Helsinki and stand in the way for any German reinforcements. And all the way south in the Balkan Peninsula we will try to destroy Bulgaria and Greece as fast as possible. While we have doubled the amount of men in our army than the Germans, they have several strong allies and their air force is probably 3 times larger than ours. Still, we are ready for the grand battle. As we declared war, we immediately attacked Bulgaria. Our mechanized broke through their only line of defense and could drive north towards Romania. We managed to encircle Burgas and soon also Varna, killing about 250,000 Germans, who had probably planned to naval invade Crimea. With half of Bulgaria captured, we will turn to the north, to Finland. With only Finnish and Swedish divisions defending Karelia, we easily broke through and tried to drive around them. But we pushed a bit too hard and they retreated to Viipuri. Funnily enough, this didn't help them and we could still encircle them by capturing Vilman Strand and driving towards Helsinki. While some of our units destroyed them, the others managed to enter Helsinki. We continued from there and captured Turku, but after taking a rest, the Finns counterattacked and encircled the city and Helsinki. We had 2 little divisions to hold the front. We will send up a reserve army from Ukraine and hopefully link up our forces again. The reinforcements arrived fairly quickly and we could immediately begin the rescue operations. It was a sluggish process to get them out. We only did it after encircling their troops on the same tile 3 times in a row. It was so slow since other nations' divisions have begun to fill the gaps left by Sweden and Finland. So we need to eliminate the Finns straight away or more divisions will flood in. Once again we began concentrating our attacks and using the thousands of Finnish lakes we encircled several of their divisions. We captured Tampere quite early on and then continued northwest towards Vasa. Instead of going along the Baltic Sea, we took a shortcut and encircled plenty of Finnish divisions at the same time as capturing the city. There are only 2 big Finnish cities left now. We began with capturing Sankt Michael without any problems and then turned back towards Vasa. From the city we drove north and after about 300 kilometers we arrived in Oulu. Still, the Finns didn't seem to surrender, so we began expanding in all directions and then they understood it was over. With their capitulation we have encircled everything from Swedish to Nigerian divisions. There were no real problems cleaning everything up, we even got the absolutely massive encirclement in northern Lapland. But to destroy it took several months, so in the meantime we turned back to Bulgaria. There, the Reichspakt had assembled their forces to defend Sofia at all costs. But as we began our attacks, we realized that they had a weakness. A ton of troops won't help if they can't communicate between themselves. This allowed us to win the battles as they couldn't reinforce effectively. First, we could only take 1 tile at a time, but soon we got the opportunity to continue and used it to encircle 2 of their cities and several troops. With the 2 cities captured, we probably have enough supply to enter Sofia. The Reichspakt divisions and the Bulgarian army was in total shock once we effectively cleared house after house in the city. But since they constantly brought fresh reinforcements to the fight, we had to sacrifice some of our own men and attack the reinforcements before they arrived. This was the winning factor and we soon planted our flags on their royal house. All Bulgarian troops surrendered, but the Reichspakt is still loyally helping their ally as we move closer and closer to Greece. The defensive terrain and smaller borders help them to defend, so continuing here is almost impossible. Instead, we will turn back to the Nordic countries. Finland has been completely occupied, only Sweden is left. And we have a great plan. If we show the Norwegian Union, the only remnant of the Third Internationale, that we can win against the Swedish, they will join our war and help us. With the majority of the Swedish army destroyed in Finland, we didn't meet any real resistance and we could easily capture Luleå and encircle the rest of their northern defenses. The Norwegians, seeing our success, quickly decided to join, not to miss out. We held a friendly competition on who could reach Stockholm first. Here our motorized could shine and we had soon captured Uppsala, the gateway to Stockholm. But our flanks weren't defended and the Swedish encircled and destroyed our troops, recapturing the city. Still, a strange mistake on their side allowed us to re-enter Uppsala and encircle a ton of their divisions. Despite the absolutely horrible supply, we managed to encircle Stockholm and almost their whole defense fled the capital by boat. We only had to capture the last big cities of Örebro and Malmö. Gothenburg wasn't even needed for them to capitulate, but we still had to fight for it. The Germans had landed in Norway, but after we kicked them out, all of the Nordic was liberated from their German overlords. We will now begin with the actual battle. The battle to arrive to Germany and liberate our territories lost in the First World War. With around 8,000 planes in the region, we plan to crush them. Arrived to the German and Polish border. We shall begin with freeing our Slavic friends in Poland from the Germans and populists in power. Just as before, we assaulted their defense with mechanized and a barrage of artillery. We quickly arrived to the Vistula River but never managed to cross it due to high fortifications in Warsaw. Instead, we decided to turn south and managed to capture Lublin after a while. As I already mentioned, the Vistula River is highly fortified with almost all Reichspakt members having troops here. But they have left Prussia almost completely undefended. The Germans in their arrogance declared that they could defend their nation alone. This is the perfect opportunity to capture East Prussia and cross the Vistula in Danzig. We broke their cipher and began driving. No single battle was unsuccessful and we rapidly entered Königsberg. From there we entered Danzig and crossed the Vistula just as planned. Since we didn't see any real defenders, we decided to turn south towards the Czech Republic. As we approached the border, our flanks weren't defended at all, so they managed to encircle our spearhead. But soon our infantry catched up and relieved them at the same time as encircling the whole of Poland. The German army has been humiliated. They have less than 1 million men in it, and we haven't even captured those in Poland yet. So we began with that. Most of their troops were towards the east in Warsaw, so we could effortlessly drive from the north and divide the encirclement into two. We began by clearing up the western pocket, capturing Breslau and Hindenburg, both German cities. Now on to Warsaw. We attacked from all sides and slowly but surely shrink their defensive capabilities. Soon we had entered the city and destroyed all populist and German activities in all of Poland. We have already occupied parts of Germany, but the fun has just begun. With almost no units along the border, Germany is doomed. So we launched a second contest, this time among our own soldiers. Each division capturing Berlin or any other big city will get medals. With the competition having started, we captured city after city after city. The Reichstag was captured and soon we arrived to the Rhineland and Bavaria. The Germans have surrendered and retreated to Africa. We have established an occupied zone in Germany waiting for the first Congress of German Unions to be over. Byelorussia and the Baltic states have all been integrated, and Finland and Sweden have both established a loyal government to us. Same in the Balkans. Socialism has spread to all Reichspakt members in Europe, all except Spain, which managed to capture Portugal, preventing us from landing our troops and spread socialism there too. So I guess the only way is to free the French people too and end the paternal autocrats from Brittany to West Ukraine. Then the road will be open to Spain. The world revolution is back, from Quebec to Kamchatka, all the way south to New Zealand. The Fourth Internationale has set its foot. But we have to stop now. With only 44% stability and 0% war support, we can't continue. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.